Hello everyone, friends. Today we'll have a video about machine learning. There haven't been any videos like this on my channel before. Today will be the first one. Let's see how you like this topic. If you enjoy it, leave a like and a comment, and we'll continue with it. I have a lot of ideas for what we can do and come up with regarding this. So let's see how it goes and then we'll continue. As usual, we'll be writing code in Python, because in my opinion, it's the most understandable and suitable programming language for these purposes, specifically for writing various strategies for trading algorithms, training, and so on. Also, before we start the video, I'd like to show you my trading robot. I wrote it myself. I've also made several posts about it in my Telegram channel, so you can check them out, take a look, and read them. There, I shared my thoughts about this robot. You can also see there that it's trading with $50 and check its profitability, yes. So you can see its current balance there, which is $50. Now, it has already earned almost 14. So, as I said, I wrote several posts. In the first post, for example, at its peak, it had $19. Now, after about 3 weeks, it's probably around $14. If you're interested in this topic, go ahead and read it. That's it. I can also sell you this robot, and soon it will have a full month of real trading, so I will most likely be raising its price. So if you're interested in this robot, I can sell it to you now. So message me on Telegram if you're interested in this topic, and we'll discuss everything. Also, in our Telegram channel, we have free screeners, a funding screener. They're also free. You just need to subscribe to the channel. Let's move on to the topic of machine learning. Also, let's take a look at the libraries we'll be using today. This is Gymnasium, a library supported by OpenAI. There were previous versions before, but the newest one is Gymnasium. I can also say that their documentation is quite high quality and very convenient. And if you want, you can also study something here and work on your own project if you write code. My idea of machine learning is that we take, roughly speaking, an agent and literally train it. That is, we reward it for certain actions, and we introduce various penalties if it does something wrong. And with such rules, we should regulate its actions, in this case, trading. Roughly speaking, we impose penalties for the agent closing a trade at a loss, and we assign these penalties to it. I'll show later in the code how this works. But for now, it's important to grasp the main idea. If we impose penalties for closing a position with a negative P&L, then the agent might simply decide not to open any positions at all, just to avoid any penalties. That's why we have to fine-tune the agent as well as the logic for penalties and rewards, so that our agent actually trades and trades profitably rather than just, in other words, to give you an idea of how precise the tuning needs to be. For example, if we specify that we reward it whenever the balance increases, it will just keep buying a certain coin endlessly, even if it never sells. That is, it will just buy on every single candle. That's why the tuning needs to be very precise. Now we're going to try to do that. GPT will also help us with this. We'll ask it to create a complete strategy that takes all of this into account so that our agent actually trades. I make such a request, specify our libraries, and write a prompt describing how I want and envision the agent's system of penalties and rewards. Here, I already wrote out the topics on which we can issue signals, rewards, and penalties. So, we now have a class ready with the minimal math needed to train the agent. And let me also remind you that right now we are training the agent only on candle closes. That is, we don't have any indicators or candle data like volume, opens, highs, or lows. We only have the closing prices. So this is a rather flat type of training. We'll see how this turns out. Later, we'll also add indicators. Here, we calculate rewards and penalties. That is, our reward is calculated as 0.1 multiplied by the realized profit. So the more profit the bot makes from a trade, the greater the reward we receive. Or rather, not us, but the agent receives the reward. There's also a penalty here. If the agent repeats the same trade as the previous one, for example, if it buys and then buys again on the next step, we also impose penalties. They're small, but they indicate that it's not good to repeat trades too many times in a row. When we run it, as you can see, we're using the processor for training. Next, we see the outputs of each iteration, each epoch. After we've completed all the training iterations, we see graphs like these in this case. Now let's figure out what this actually is and what's happening. Here, for example, you can zoom in. So we can see that our agent was buying, then there was a slight increase here, and then it was selling. I wouldn't say that we were clearly in profit right here. Here, for example, yes, you can see that the sales was slightly higher. Again, here we are not taking order commissions into account. So for example, if we included a commission, the agent would know that opening this many trades would most likely be unprofitable, and the movement wouldn't cover the commission for 2 orders. It's hard to say exactly what's happening with the balance. It swings sharply into the negative and then into the positive. It buys and goes into the red. There's a lot of order spamming going on, and possibly because of this, our balance drops and rises accordingly. Again, we can, for example, take a screenshot of this balance and send it to GPT so it can come up with suggestions on what to do about it. We also need to add indicators, so our agent has more information. I asked GPT what could be causing the balance fluctuations. I also asked about adding indicators, and it pointed out possible reasons why the balance might be swinging like this. Now we'll write this out. It pointed out possible reasons why our balance is fluctuating. Basically, we need to take into account position sizes and trade volumes, and the problem will most likely go away. Next, regarding adding RSI and EMA well, we don't necessarily need to keep indicator data for several years. We can calculate them directly during the process using a library lib, or for example, just with custom functions for calculating indicators. But another option is to calculate them using pandas. I think this is the most versatile option. So let's specifically use calculation through pandas. Here, we simply insert our code for calculating the indicators after we've loaded our data frame with candlestick data, and add 2 new columns that will contain, for example, EMA fast and EMA low. And we also create a separate column for the RSI. After that, we clean up the fields where we have data of type none. Indicators only start collecting data. At first, they leave empty values because they need to accumulate data over a certain period. Accordingly, during this period, there's nothing in those fields. So we remove all of that and update the indices. And now I'm also adding position and order balance tracking so that we don't have sudden jumps in the balance, and so the agent clearly understands how many orders it can open or close. In other words, we impose penalties here if the agent tries to buy above the limit we've set for it. I've also specified that the position size, for example, should be a maximum of 3, meaning 3 orders. I've also added action validation, so you can't sell without holding a position, and so on. In other words, we're trading, roughly speaking, as if it's spot trading. It's important to keep in mind that we're trading on, roughly speaking, 10,000 steps. All of this is calculated in iterations, and usually for higher quality training, you could set, for example, 100,000. But the main thing is to avoid the effect of overfitting. So for now, we're testing on 10,000 steps, and later we'll see what happens if we try 100,000. Let's take a look at what we end up seeing. So as I can see, we only have buy orders here. So apparently somewhere there was too little penalty perhaps. So we need to think this through now. So I made some adjustments, and as a result, the agent now only decides to sell. Let's fix this again. I also decided to ask GPT how many steps we need to set for proper training. Also, considering how many rows we have, and roughly taking into account our time frame, which is 5 minutes. If we set fewer than 20,000, the agent simply doesn't have time to learn everything. So for example, we can try setting it to 100,000, as I mentioned earlier, and see what happens. And so after tweaking the agent's math a bit, the rewards and penalties, we ended up with a positive balance. Here, for some reason, it's displayed incorrectly, but again, we'll fix that. And we can also see the date and the trades. There are a lot of them. Again, yes, this is our history for 2 years. And here, as we can see, we had both sell and buy orders. Also, let me remind you that we did not take commissions into account here. We could try training the agent more precisely and specifically with commissions included. Right now, it covers a lot of trades. If we show it that there is such a thing as commissions and demonstrate that when closing a trade, it still ends up in the red after accounting for commissions, and also teach it to open more targeted trades and accordingly to close them, then we can get closer to more realistic results. And the goal itself is not just to run it on historical data and maximize the balance, but to refine a certain strategy from the historical data and then apply it when analyzing future data. So for example, when new candlesticks come in, our agent will analyze them and decide what to do. So if you like this video and we get 50 likes and 50 comments, I'll make the next video about machine learning for the agent. Add commissions and try to train it more precisely for more accurate trading. Also, if you want to learn how to implement your own trading strategies, trading robots, or backtest your trading strategies, we offer individual training. You can contact me on Telegram and we'll discuss everything. Also, if you need help writing or implementing any project or screener, you can reach out to me on Telegram. My team and I will develop the project for you. So make sure to like the video and leave your comments. And don't forget to subscribe to the Telegram channel. I will post the code for this project on my Telegram channel. I'll also list all the commands you need to run to install all the libraries we used here. This will all be on Telegram. Thank you all for watching, Goodbye, everyone.